Let's do Crazy Town, because Biden was out and about today. Not only was he speaking incoherently about the SCOTUS opinion, of course, which he's so all over the map, none of it he gets right. But he doesn't want to get it right because he knows he can just put it out there and the media will run with it. CNN and MSNBC will run with it, and they'll all just repeat the same nonsense all day long and get everybody, of course, fired up. But he visited the Javelin missile plant today. Let's see how. I'm sure he rode a missile. I'm sure he's going to tell us he was something here.
Well, he used to build them, so
we might have an update to the T-shirt by the time this gets done. Let's roll it, G.
It is a great honor to introduce to you the President of the United States.
I tell you what, Linda, if I were CEO of this company, I'd be worried. Linda said she personally touched every single solitary Javelin, 50,000 that had been manufactured in this plant 20 years ago. I was worried to shake your hand. I thought you might be electrocuted.
What?
Well, I wanted to come down to Alabama to make sure that the American people know what work is this for. And by the way, you have a seat, please take it. By the way, sometimes the press is always fair with me, but every once in a while I make a mistake. Not like once a speech, but at any rate, years ago when I started talking to this for this job, I said, "Please take your seats." There weren't any seats; everyone was standing. There were no chairs. So I just want to make sure I check whether you had seats. The American people know what work at this facility you're doing and support Ukraine's fight for freedom.
What?
I've been in those battlefields where these missiles are fired, and I spent a lot of time going in and out of Iraq and Afghanistan, maybe a total of 40 times. And I tell you what,
40.
And I've been in Ukraine a lot prior to the war, and on the border since the war. And it's amazing what you've done. But what we don't always see, is the work that that makes so much of this possible. It's not hyperbole. During World War II, the United States was known as the arsenal of democracy. I was a slight digression. I went over for the 50th anniversary of the end of World War II, and I was in Normandy, and I went up afterwards to the cemetery, and I was walking by myself, and it's incredible. All of a sudden, I heard behind me a tinge, and I turned around, and there was a gentleman, big guy, looked like Hoss Cartwright, and his wife, and one other, and a daughter. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, you're doing it. You really are doing it. You're making a gigantic difference for these poor sons of guns who are under such enormous pressure and firepower. Some of the best, most effective weapons in our arsenal are Javelin missiles, like the ones manufactured right here in Pike County. There's even a story about Ukrainian parents naming their children, not a joke.
Not a joke.
They named it not a
joke.
Javelin
Hyperbole.
or Javelina. Not a joke. We're at an inflection point in history. For real. It comes along about every 6 or 8 generations.
Holy moly.
Where things are changing so rapidly that we have to be in control. Xi Jinping, the leader of China, who I've spent more time with than any other world leader.
Here he goes.
Over 78 hours either in person or on the telephone with him.
Foothills.
He says that democracies cannot be sustained in the 21st century. Not a joke.
Not a joke.
They cannot be sustained because things are moving so rapidly. Democracy require consensus, and it's hard to get consensus. Therefore,
Sugar's
they
dropping.
can't keep up with an autocracy, one-man rule. If that happens, the whole world changes. I mean, because of you, in this first really battle, if you will, for that, to determine whether that's going to happen, is because you're making it possible. The United States alone has committed more than 5,500 javelins to Ukraine. You're changing the nation. You really are. Before Russia attacked, we made sure Russia had javelins and other weapons to strengthen the defenses so Ukraine was ready for whatever happened. Since Russia invaded Ukraine just over 2 months ago, we have sent more than $3 billion in security assistance to Ukraine. Alone, us, not counting our allies. Because if you don't stand up to dictators, history has shown us they keep coming. I sent Congress, if you excuse a point of personal privilege, talking like an old senator, but sent a supplemental budget, a fancy way of saying we need more money. As I said from the beginning, this fight is not going to be cheap. I know what the answer is, and I think you all do too. I'll bet I know what the answer to this plan is.
What?
There's something else here that
What just happened?
Being the arsenal of democracy also means good-paying jobs for American workers. I learned on the tour today that each of the Javelins you produce includes more than 200 semiconductors. We invented the sucker, going to the moon. Computer chips that power much of our modern life. On our phones, our cars, almost anything that has an on-off switch.
He thinks he's on the
Today,
moon.
all the world's most advanced chips are made overseas. I'm determined to make sure the United States holds its technological high ground in competition with other nations, especially China, as we move forward. And so now we're back in the game, making sure that we become the primary producer. And I'm once more urging Congress to quickly pass this supplemental funding bill, over $300 billion, to help the Ukrainians so they can keep all of you very, very busy for a while here.
Holy cow.
Wow. Moses.
Ooh.
Wowza.
Wow, what a marble mouthful